Nobody warned me about the wind. I'd seen 100 videos of Tarifa. The white buildings, the kiteboarders, the beaches that look like they belong in a different century. Nobody mentioned that the wind here is so constant, it starts to feel personal. Like it's trying to tell you something. This is the real version. I got here on a Sunday afternoon after an easy 2.5-hour bus ride from Malaga. My first hour was spent trying to find the accommodation, while the Levante wind basically walked me sideways down the street. Tarifa is small, like really small. The old town is a maze of narrow streets and whitewashed walls. The architecture is half Andalusian, half North African, and the whole place has this feeling like it's at the edge of something, which it literally is. This is the southernmost point of mainland Europe. Stand in the right spot and you can see 2 continents and 2 oceans at once. That sounds dramatic, but when you're actually there, dragging your bag down a cobblestone alley in 40 km/h wind, it mostly just feels like your eyes are watering. Within 20 minutes, I'd already done a full lap of the old town by accident, which is either charming or panic-inducing depending on your mood. My mood was kind of grey. I'd been in Spain before this, and I think part of me expected Tarifa to feel like an arrival. You know, that moment where you exhale and think, yes, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Everything clicks. That moment did not happen on day 1. Day 1 was mostly me sitting on the edge of my bed, eating something from a bag, wondering why I'd booked a whole week. There was an evening, I think it was day 4, where I sat down to eat alone and just felt it. That particular silence of being somewhere beautiful with no one to turn to and say, look at that. Sitting on the terrace of Brasseria Vaca Loca with my phenomenal dinner, quietly watching people walk by. Here's the thing about solo travel that nobody really puts in the highlight reel. It's not always the liberating self-discovery montage. Sometimes it's just quiet, in a way that gets heavy. You're surrounded by people who came here together, the kitesurf couples, the groups of friends, and you're just watching. Present, but not quite part of it. I'm not going to pretend I'm past the part where that sometimes feels lonely. I think that's the thing no one really says, because it doesn't look great in a travel video. But it's the truest part of it. And if you stay with it long enough, it actually leads somewhere. And the wind was doing that thing again where it just does not stop. Day and night, constant, relentless. And I found myself thinking, what am I actually doing here? And then something shifted. The next morning, something felt different. All of a sudden, things started to feel less heavy. Not dramatically. Not a single conversation that fixed everything. The thing is, I wasn't technically alone in Tarifa. There were people around, people I could talk to. And somehow that made it more complicated, not easier. Because having the option to connect and still feeling like you have to work for it, still feeling like you're the one who has to reach, that's its own specific kind of hard. But I reached, a few times. Some of it landed, some of it didn't. And I think that's actually the more honest version of how human connection works when you're somewhere new. It's not a movie moment. It's just deciding to try repeatedly, even when it feels awkward. Because that's what Tarifa is. It's a place defined by something you can't control. The kitesurfers don't come here in spite of the wind. They come here because of it. And maybe there's something in that. I walked further along the coast and I found myself looking out at the strait. And I kept thinking, that's Africa. That's Morocco, right there, 14 kilometers away. On a clear day, you can see the outline of the Reef Mountains. Another continent, another world, close enough to feel almost reachable. I stood there for a long time. Something about that proximity, like the world is actually much smaller and more connected than it feels when you're sitting alone wondering what you're doing. It recalibrated something. I stopped needing the week to be anything specific. I let it just be what it was. The thing I keep coming back to is the golden hour. The light in Tarifa at sunset, the way it hit the boulevard. I took photos and none of them got it. That particular quality only exists in person. I was there, and I think that's enough. This week in Tarifa wasn't the week I planned. It was windier and lonelier and more confusing and more worth it than I expected. I think that's what travel actually is, when you strip away the version you'd post on a grid. It's mostly discomfort with occasional windows of something you can't quite explain. And somehow that's better than the highlight reel. I'm going to keep making videos like this, not the highlights, the real version. The whole thing, including the evenings where I sat on the edge of the bed wondering what I was doing. If that's what you want to see, subscribe, because I've got a lot more of this ahead of me.